She wanted, even in my administration, she was pushing that we go to war with everybody. And I said, if you ever gave her a rifle and let her do the fighting, if you ever do that, she wouldn't be doing too well, I will tell you right now. But she's a war hawk. She wants to go kill people unnecessarily. And if she had to do it herself and she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it. So it's easy for her to talk, but she wouldn't be doing it. She's actually a disgrace.
And he spends a considerable amount of time plotting his revenge on his political opponents. As of last night, just to add more, he has indicated that the person who would be in charge of health care for the American people is someone who has routinely promoted junk science and crazy conspiracy theories, who once expressed support for a national abortion ban, and who is the exact last person in America who should be setting health care policy for America's families and children. And then, even worse, he has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president. Representative Cheney is a true patriot who has shown extraordinary courage in putting country above party. Trump is increasingly, however, someone who considers his political opponents the enemy, is permanently out for revenge, and is increasingly unstable and unhinged. His enemies list has grown longer, his rhetoric has grown more extreme, and he is even less focused than before on the needs and the concerns and the challenges facing the American people. I have also thought a lot about what this means in terms of our standing in the world. As Vice President, I have represented the United States of America around the world. And what I know is that when we walk in those rooms representing the United States of America, we have the earned and self-appointed authority to then talk about the importance of democracy, the importance of rule of law. And as a result, people around the world who are fighting for freedom and opportunity hold us up as a model. America deserves better than what Donald Trump is offering. America deserves a president who understands our role and responsibility to our people and to the rest of the world to be a model. So I'll end with this. Voters are making their decisions. Many have voted, but there are still those who are making a decision about who they'll vote for. And what I offer is I ask folks to, among the many issues before you, just consider who's going to be sitting in the Oval Office on January 20th. Either you're going to have Donald Trump there, who will be stewing over his enemies list, or I will be there working hard on your behalf on my to-do list. That is the choice among many that is at stake in this election, and I would be proud to earn the vote of the American people, and I do intend to win. With that, I'll take any questions.
Here, EP. Have you had a chance to talk to Liz Cheney? And then secondly, are you concerned about her general security? And concerning the situation and how tense things are, do you think that the government or the administration is some form of provider with security in this situation?
So I've not talked to her since this comment was made, but I will tell you, I know Liz Cheney well enough to know that she is tough. She is incredibly courageous and has shown herself to be a true patriot at a very difficult time in our country, where, to your point, we see this kind of rhetoric that is violent in nature, where we see this kind of spirit coming from Donald Trump that is so laden with the desire for revenge and retribution. And Liz Cheney is a tough person. She is an incredible American, and I have an incredible amount of respect for her. I think that Liz Cheney is courageous and that we will always make sure that we are all fighting against and speaking out against any form of political violence.
So the press wasted no time to follow Judge's lead and did twist those comments. Watch this.
Violent rhetoric. Donald Trump going after political foe Liz Cheney.
Donald Trump calling for Liz Cheney being shot in the face.
This is not acceptable. This is so dangerous.
Isn't that statement a disqualifying statement?
It should.
Why is he allowed to run for president? I fled communism. This is exactly what communists do. Yep. They shoot their opponents. Right.
Let's just be clear. When you talk about 9 barrels, I'm sorry for all the folks out there who want to dance on the head of a pin. That is what he is talking about, an execution fantasy.
An execution fantasy. So Team Trump calling it the latest fake media outrage, saying that former President Trump was clearly calling Liz Cheney a war hawk. But that clarification did not stop Kamala Harris from running to the reporters. Watch what she said.
He has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
And the former president defending himself against the media barrage while visiting a coffee shop today in Michigan.
I think that Liz Cheney is a disaster. All she wants to do is blow people up. She's a war hawk and a dumb one at that. And if you ever put her into the field of battle, she'd be the first one to chicken out. She wouldn't fight. She'd chicken out so fast. And that's all I say. These are the people. They don't mind killing people, but if they had to do it themselves, she wouldn't fight. She's a coward.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear, Janine, from his comments. And, you know, I went back and listened to the exchange around this. It's very clear. And it's really so reprehensible to me when I watch those other comments by members of the media to not even mention the fact that the discussion was about being a war hawk and whether or not the same people who push war would be able to do what our young men and women do on that line themselves. Right. I think it was pretty clear to me.
Yeah, well, it's pretty clear to me that he wasn't calling for the killing of Liz Cheney. I mean, he's making the same argument that the left made about the right in the Iraq War, I think between 2002 and 2008, when they were saying, you people are sending troops into harm's way, but very few of you served in the military, and it would be totally different if you had to serve in the military. I mean, the left said that about the right for years. And yet, you know, you've got Liz Cheney, and I have to tell you, I mean, here's a woman whose family has benefited off of war. They profit from war. I mean, when Dick Cheney became the head of Halliburton, he took it from, I think, the 73rd biggest oil company, defense contractor in the world to the 18th biggest. Liz Cheney goes from, when she's in Congress, from 7 million. 6 years later, she's got 47 million. Okay, these are people who make money off of military confrontations. And for the left to turn this into something that it is not, it's not surprising because they've got nothing else. I mean, you got Joe Biden calling us garbage and on, and we've only got 4 days left. We've got 4 more days for them to keep doing this to us. But Donald Trump is saying, I don't want to send people to war. He backed it up by leaving the world at peace, by leaving the Middle East with the Abraham Accords and not sending our men and women in a place where they're getting their legs blown off, et cetera. And good for him.
Yeah, Jessica, it's interesting because the argument that Janine just made is exactly, I mean, I remember covering that period. That's exactly the argument that was made against the Bush White House and constant comparing, you know, his Halliburton connections from years prior. This is a war hawk. So now you have President Trump calling her a war hawk in this moment, and everybody's just saying that he's a crazy person who wants to go shoot someone and losing the whole rest of that story.
Yeah,
as usual, the people who have to or want to defend Donald Trump do a better job of doing it than Donald Trump himself. So I think the chicken hawk argument is a pretty strong one. I think a lot of people warmonger or say we should just go in there, we'll take care of it. And they're not sending their sons or daughters. They're not the ones that are going to serve themselves. But using that kind of rhetoric, saying, let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face, conjures up something in you. It's the same thing as the comments he made 2 nights ago about protecting women. He's talking about protecting them from illegal alien crime, but he says, I'll protect women whether they like it or not. And he even admits on stage that his team wants him to stop talking like that. And Nikki Haley was making this case with Bret Baier on Special Report early in the week, where she just said the rhetoric is too bro-tastic. This is too masculine of a campaign, and you see that in the gender divide. And it's what's bearing out in the election right now. I'm sure you've seen David Plouffe talking about this. The Harris campaign has put it out there to all the reporters today that what they're seeing from the late breakers, so people are deciding in the last week, is a double-digit surge for Kamala's campaign. And people are saying that the Madison Square Garden rally was the last straw. And when you have a lineup that includes Dana White, Hulk Hogan, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tony Hinchcliffe with, the clincher there that has erupted the Puerto Rican community and the Latino community writ large against the Trump campaign, saying, I get it, he's a comedian, right? I don't blame Tony Hinchcliffe for that. He has a right to say it. I don't think it was the right venue for it if you want your candidate to win the election. But for them to take that and say, this is what people that he showcases thinks about people like us. You watch Bad Bunny's videos about it. I'm actually surprised by the level of explosiveness that this has caused. You can't then sit there and defend this or say it's about being out of context. People are telling you, we know who Donald Trump is, and he's someone who says things like that.
Know how many
it's almost why you call him a Nazi.
I don't call him a Nazi.
No, but you're defending people who do just now, right? That's the problem. You know what's interesting to me, as always? Somehow the rhetoric is worse than the deeds behind it. So it's not when Trump says, I want to protect women from illegal violent offenders, it's not like I'm upset about the illegal violent offenders. I'm upset over the rhetoric he used. Or 1 million are dead in the Ukraine-Russian war because we're funding it. Companies like Halliburton, right? No, that's not the thing that's outrageous. It's the rhetoric Trump uses when he refers to war pigs, because that's what they are, to quote the great Ozzy Osbourne. It's not until Trump uses the inflammatory language that Democrats suddenly decide, or discover actually, that there's an issue behind it. Do you think the Democrats had any idea that there was a trash crisis in Puerto Rico until a roast comic made a joke about it? Hell no. Do you think all of these guys wringing their hands, these famous Puerto Ricans, are doing anything but posting on Twitter? Are they doing anything to solve the trash crisis? No, they're not. They're not. And you can bet Trump probably will. He might say something, but he will do something. The Liz Cheney hoax is predicated on your side thinking your voters are stupid and lazy. You assume they will accept an out-of-context quote and not look behind for the entire thought process. So Liz isn't just a liar and a cheat. She's also playing along. She's a fabricator. The media plays along with it because, you know what? This is their side. This is why the mainstream media is dead.
It's getting a lot of attention because Kamala Harris dare not challenge her surrogate, Mark Cuban, on what he said yesterday about the women around President Trump not being strong or intelligent. Look, on this one, I'm going with Caroline Leavitt because President Trump was talking about the thirst for war, people just sending our brave men and women off to war. Many people in this country have a hard time understanding why so many people died in the Iraq War, given the fact that well, I'm just going to say this. Given the fact that people in this country are very divided on those times, I won't express my own opinion on it except to say that I was in the White House with the Commander-in-Chief when he had a very hard time every month calling those soldiers' parents and signing those letters like, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Jones, your son died a hero." And he said, you know, we send these kids to Syria and they're training them and they just get shot in the back. Without notice, you know, without being able to defend themselves. So as the president who started no new wars, as opposed to Vice President Harris, chaos and crisis. And I'll say this, President Trump did not say to have rifles trained on her. He was saying that people who want to send people to war ought to realize that in wars, this is what happens. You wouldn't be so blasé about it. I don't like any of the violent rhetoric. I don't like the fact that as a staffer, Martha, I had 24/7 Secret Service the day I started in Trump's White House as a staffer. My biggest sin ever that made my family me insecure was helping him win in 2016. I had children ages 7, 8, 12, and 12 in my home. So I'm not going to listen to anybody's nonsense. Kamala Harris reading from a piece of paper and not sounding strong or intelligent. And so I don't like any of the rhetoric that can be misconstrued. But on this one, President Trump was talking about how quick folks are to send people to war. And look, Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney came to the Trump White House early on. I was there, and we're very grateful to President Trump for doing something that Cheney's boss, George W. Bush, would not do, which was pardon Chief of Staff to the Vice President, Scooter Libby. President Trump did that. And so, you know, I sat in the second row. Liz Cheney was in the front row at that convention in 2020 on the South Lawn, listening very intently to President Trump speak. And I know things changed after that, but people just want to reinvent history and political allegiances and alliances. I'll stop with this, Martha. You know, for all the talk about this stray Republican or that stray Republican is endorsing Kamala Harris, what about the tens of millions of should-be, would-be Democratic rank-and-file voters that are supporting President Trump? That's the real story of this election. That's why it's tight, and that's why he has an advantage.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.